what I want to really, there's a couple of directions that I want to take everything you just told me, from the journal to the coaching membership in school and the ecosystem idea that you're developing.
Yeah, let me
So I
grab some
think what
paper. Thank
overlays
you.
all of that is if you have a single offer, a single transformation, if you
Yeah,
will, that you're, you can deliver on and is powerful for people who need it. So the construct that I like is, creating programs that are enjoyable to
yeah,
design, fun for people to enroll in, and for
yes, yeah,
you, joyful to actually deliver, right? So that's
yeah,
sort of the frame, because if it isn't a win for us, if it isn't a win for the world, and it isn't a win for our clients, is it really a win? So
yes,
using that frame, we're able to tick off all those boxes.
yeah,
The other thing that I want to just mention is the way that I like to try to help people break it down into something that feels more manageable tactically
yep,
is doing work in like identity psychology. So some of this has
yes,
to do with heroic, the eating, moving, sleeping, focusing, which I'm sure you're quite familiar
yeah,
with. But on top of that, how we create an economic engine around our energy so that the business becomes a renewable resource as opposed to something that sort of drains us over time like a battery. So what
I love
identity
that. How
you
we create
need.
an economic, and I'm just going to write that down.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, economic engines. Those are words. I love them, and I've never thought about them.
Yeah, so what this gives us permission to do is to identify and then double down on the parts of this business that we're constructing that really make us come alive, and either get rid of or delegate. Ideally, just get rid of. But if it's really truly needed, delegating the things that don't allow us to come alive,
Yeah,
so that the business, the work we're doing, gives us the same type of energy that our energy protocol gives to us.
yes,
Because I think there's a little bit of I don't know if I think it's a mistaken belief. Like the energy has to come from eating, moving, sleeping, focusing. I think also we can get that same type of energy from the business that we're creating,
yes,
provided we
absolutely.
construct it and architect it in an intentional way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yes,
Cool. So once we've got that identity really cohered, who we need to be to step into the level of success that we want, we start talking about high and low leverage. We get really ruthless about what the high leverage things are for us, and we get incredibly mindful of when we fall into low leverage tasks.
yeah,
So now we've constructed the identity and energy, we've focused it in high leverage. This should lead us directly into flow state.
yeah,
So we basically use identity, leverage, and flow to make
hmm,
bigger steps faster. Does that make sense?
yeah,
So leverage being, depending on where you're at
yeah,
and what you're trying to build, let's use the example of sales calls.
yeah,
Okay. Depending on where you're at, those are either going to be high leverage, you're going to get lots of data, or they become the bottleneck
okay,
because you've already gotten enough market research. You're really familiar with the problems and the pain points that a person might have. So all
yeah,
of a sudden, they are the bottleneck that keeps you from growing. So
right,
determining the what de- excuse me, determining, depending on where you're at in the creation of the vision, what the high leverage and low leverage things are for you to be doing, and
got you.
being really intentional about removing, being really intentional about being unwilling
Yes,
to engage in low leverage tasks. Because
I'm with you.
frankly, you would be better served by allowing yourself to play in some white space than spending 2 hours in low leverage tasks. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So the idea is to construct an architecture of your business where the tasks you're doing, and this includes client delivery, the back end type of thing, your creation of the modules that you're going to be doing for your membership, this all occurs in 20 hours a week or so, right? We don't, you can extrapolate it to, many more hours than that. But the point is there any true glory in working 50, 60 hours a week? Anybody can do that.
Yeah. No,
But
I'm not. I'm not. Yeah.
how many hours of flow state can you stack together? That's an entirely different challenge. And that's where we're really trying to organize ourselves so
Yes.
that this becomes more like a flywheel. You're just
Yeah.
so energized by what you're doing that it sort of cranks into the next cycle. Does that
Yes.
make sense? Cool.
Yeah. Absolutely.